We have another NHL trade to discuss, this one between the Anaheim Ducks and the Detroit Red Wings. Robbi Fabbri is on the move. We'll discuss the details coming up next. Welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have another NHL trade to discuss, this time between two good friends and former co-workers in Pat Verbeek, the GM of the Ducks, and Steve Yzerman, the GM of the Detroit Red Wings. So the Red Wings have traded Robbi Fabbri to the Ducks, along with a conditional fourth-round pick for prospect goaltender Gage Alexander. So this is essentially a cap dump for the Red Wings. The Red Wings move on from Fabbri, who has 1 year left on his contract, with a $4.25 million price tag. The condition on the fourth-round pick is right now Detroit has 2 picks in the fourth round for next year. They have their own pick and the pick of the Boston Bruins, and they get whatever. The Ducks will get whatever pick is better, so whichever one's higher. So Fabbri's 28 years old, left winger, 2014 first-round pick, came out of juniors, a pretty good goal scorer, pretty good prospect with the St. Louis Blues. After a couple of significant knee injuries, ended up on the move after a period of time. Had flashes of being really good. His biggest issue has been staying healthy, but last year wasn't much of an issue, and even 2 years back wasn't much of an issue. 2 of the last 3 years, he's been pretty solid. The 21-22 campaign, which was right after the pandemic, when the NHL played a shortened 56-game campaign, he actually played all games. Then the year after that, he did miss time with another serious injury. And then last year, he appeared in 68 games, so he did miss a little bit of time, but nothing as serious as before. He's been pretty consistent for the most part when he's been healthy. Like last year, he put up 18 goals and 32 points. So his contract is reasonable, maybe slightly overpaid, but not really by a whole lot. And they're having to give up a pick to move him. I mean, yes, they get a return of a player instead of future considerations. Gage Alexander comes over from the Ducks. He's a 22-year-old prospect goalie who's nowhere near being established. He played last year in the East Coast League. He's a big guy, 6'6", has, I guess, some potential. It's not a goalie I know a ton about, but the last thing Detroit needs right now is another goalie. I think that puts them on like 7 or 8 goalies signed between NHL and their minor league affiliates now, because they still have, of course, Ville Husso. They obviously signed Jack Campbell. They signed Cam Talbot. They still have Alex Lyon under contract. So there's 4 guys that have a good amount of NHL experience signed, and then they've got they already had, I think, 2 or 3 other minor league goalies, including Sebastian Cossa. I'm not sure exactly what the plan would be for Gage Alexander, where he'll play next year. Maybe he'll play with their East Coast affiliate. I don't know. I would suspect we're going to see Detroit make other moves here. When it comes to goaltending, they got to move somebody. I can't imagine they're going to go into NHL training camp with 4 NHL experienced goalies. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Jack Campbell goes on waivers and maybe they want him to be with the AHL team. Maybe Campbell and Cossa would be their AHL tandem, but then that still leaves you with Husso, Lyon, and the newly signed Cam Talbot. Lyon's been good. Talbot's not somebody who you'd expect to find on waivers. So again, Ville Husso, I suspect Husso's going to get traded, but we'll see if that materializes. There was a lot of rumblings Detroit was interested in John Gibson earlier, but of course that has not materialized here either. But to me, this is just another baffling trade by the Red Wings. Of course, they later signed Vladimir Tarasenko not long after this trade went down to a similar contract. He gets 2 years at $4.75 million. So essentially, they moved Fabbri to make room for Tarasenko. Right now, they have lots of cap space, but they also need to sign Mo Seider and Lucas Raymond, who are RFA at the moment, and are likely looking at fairly lucrative long-term extensions if they get the long-term deals worked out. I mean, those 2 guys could easily eat up, at least $7-8 million apiece, maybe a bit more. Out of that $20 million, they're going to probably be down to anywhere maybe 3 to 4. So their blue line needs work for sure. Looking at that blue line they have right now, outside of Seider, it's like, oof, like Ben Sherratt's left. They still got Petrie. They still got Justin Hall. They lost Gostisbehere. It's the blue line needs work. So I'm not sure what Yzerman's going to do, but when he traded Jake Wallman, to me, Wallman was better than Hall, better than Petrie, and he got moved with a pick to San Jose for futures. And now this is kind of the same thing, whereas you see other trades, like, for example, the Blues picked up Radek Faksa and Matthew Joseph yesterday, both in different trades. Radek Faksa they took for nothing, but there was no sweetener. He had 1 year left on his contract at 3.5, I think it was, or 3.25. Joseph had 2 years, so they had to put a pick with him to take that contract. And again, Joseph was in a similar boat as Fabbri here, similar production, maybe not quite as long of a history of it, but still, like, at the end of the day, I don't understand the Jake Walman and the Robbi Fabbri trades. Like, these are players that I would have thought had some value, even if they didn't have a ton of value. The fact that you're adding picks, like I said, I know this is not a nothing because they do take a prospect goalie back, but considering where things are at in their system, is he going to amount to anything? Like, I would have serious doubts. I mean, he's 22, so you just never know. But it just seems weird. So Tarasenko essentially comes in, another winger who was 4 years older than Fabbri. Has scored 40 goals before, but that's been a long time. Last year, he split between Ottawa and Florida, won a Stanley Cup. That's a second cup on his resume. Lots of experience. He's pretty good. Good leadership guy. Can replace David Perron too because he left. So, in that sense, I like Tarasenko. He's a good player. Will probably bring you a little bit more than Fabbri did, but a lot more money too. So it's just I don't know. It's an interesting trade. Not so much that they moved on from Fabbri, but it's just the fact that with Fabbri and Walman both, they ended up having to put these sweeteners in there when they're not like they're scrubs. You know what I mean? I don't get it. Whereas Radek Faksa, who's been on the block, it was been rumored to be leaving Dallas for over a year. We've got 1 year left in his contract, and he goes for future considerations no sweetener. So again, it just, I don't know. I don't know what Yzerman's up to. He's hard to read. We know there's not a lot of leaks in Detroit. Yzerman keeps everything very, very quiet. But you got to wonder, obviously, this led to the Tarasenko signing, so I get that. The remaining money, it might look like a lot, but they get a signed Seider, Raymond, and Jovelino. So again, when that's all said and done, you're not going to have a ton of money left. I think they have to trade Husso, and you need to try to bring in another good defender. Otherwise, this team is going to look a little bit different. But they get Kane back. They brought in Tarasenko. If they can, depend on what some of their other veteran guys that they did, obviously Comfer and Kopp, and how productive will those guys be? That might be a big, a big piece of what they can accomplish next year. And, Larkin's going to be probably pretty good. He usually always is. Raymond's still not hitting his full potential. Will DeBrincat be able to get back to 30-plus goals? He's been stuck at 27 the last couple of years. So, those are some big factors in there as well. But for the most part, I understand what Yzerman and the Red Wings are building. It's just some of these trades are confusing. I don't quite get it. And I really think they need to address the blue line here now that they've done lots of work to the forward group. And, of course, the goaltenders. My God, the goaltenders. Let me know your thoughts on everything on this trade down in the comments. We'll discuss later in the comments. And, of course, they'll be back a little bit later as well with another video discussing all the rest of the news around the NHL today. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.